Hello, everyone. I am Jermaine.
And I'm Kelsey.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Future Tribe podcast, and the first time that we're live streaming to YouTube um, for the Future Tribe show. So this is a bit anxiety-inducing. I don't know how this is going to go, but if uh, if you want to watch this live next time, go subscribe to our YouTube channel in the future. I think we will hopefully start streaming live to the Facebook group. What do you think, Kelsey?
Yeah, I reckon we should. Keep
So
it exclusive there
maybe,
for everyone.
yeah. So maybe join us there as well. If you want to see this live and uncut. Not that we're going to be doing a lot of record editing before we send this live on the podcast. On this week's show, we've got a bunch of new logos again. I think, and they're all quite big names. It's been a few weeks where we've seen a few different logo refreshes happen. Doesn't always get this busy in the logo world. We've also got a report from Facebook to talk about, a report from LinkedIn with some really actionable stuff for any of you who operate on any of those platforms. And I think even social media and advertising in general. So if you tend to advertise or have a social presence, which most of you would, definitely interesting information there. And we've got the world's first hair pattern identifier. I, I don't know how you would describe it, but we'll get into that as well. I think some really interesting topics to talk about today. Let's roll the intro. All right, so straight off the bat, let's jump in on the deep end with Trolli rebranding, refreshing their brand. It's really not a huge change. Let me share this with everyone watching. Um,
I have to be honest, I kind of forgot that Trolli existed as a brand.
so did I. Do they? I mean, does anyone eat like Trolli's sold in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean they have those little mini burgers. I think that's where I'm familiar with them. Um,
Yes.
they probably do sourworm sort of things. I just feel like it's one of those things. Like in Australia, they probably don't compete as well as like Allen's and Natural Confectionery. They're probably the two.
Sort of the Aussie companies who do
Yeah, leading in that
lollies.
space. But I'm sure they'd actually have a decent market share in Australia.
Probably. And I mean globally they'd be pretty big, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Trolli's sort of like is it Haribo, the other aren't
Mm-hmm.
Haribo German as well?
Yeah, Haribo's very much like just gummy bears. I'm sure they've got other stuff too, but that's their thing.
That's their thing. I mean this logo refresh is pretty simple. They've just modernized it, haven't they?
Yeah, they've gone the same kind of route that a lot of brands have been going, which is just taking the logo they've got and flattening it, just taking out a lot of those like extra details that sort of add complexity and just simplifying it.
Yeah, and
Um,
and this would scale better. I haven't seen the social media applications for this new logo, but this would definitely scale better and work better in small applications. Because, like you said, Kelsey, the old version is very similar. I mean, it's basically identical, but they've gotten rid of those sort of complex details that
mm,
are they're pretty. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but
but there's like three
not
layers
modern.
to it in that old one because you've got that white outline. I think there's also like a black outline,
There is,
the
yeah,
pink, and then also the detailing on the, to make it like,
like the reflection.
yeah,
It's
make it
got
puffy,
that
I
old
guess.
school, yeah, that extrude effect if you use like 3D tools, which is a very old school approach, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of interesting how they've pulled across the like purple dot, and that's the only part of the purple they've kept. And I don't know why.
Yeah, they've gone with a more subtle purple. Maybe, you know what it is? I think if you're watching this stream, you'll see the packaging comparison. And I think if they use the purple, or like the pink, I mean, it's it wouldn't stand out as much as the white. And I think what this has allowed them to do is maintain the 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 sort of look and feel somewhat while modernizing it and then having a logo that pops.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Are you
I don't know.
disagreeing?
No, I was just trying to look at the like the difference in the packaging, and I'm trying to decide which one I like more because I almost feel like the new one looks cheaper, which is a bit weird, and I can't figure out why it looks cheaper to me.
Yeah, maybe it is a bit flatter, but then again, if you look at the old one, it does look a bit more old school with sort of the floating bubbles in the background, and um, it's a lot more layered than the new one is.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see why you think the new one looks cheap. I've spoken, presented logos and branding in the past to clients who've had a similar reaction because maybe it's because it seems to be less fussy, and that then I think makes it look easier to do, and then therefore like cheaper in that it's just a simplified or a simpler um, overall presentation, which might be the reason. It is interesting though. Think that the worms on the new packaging still have that 3D effect to them, where um, the that effect has been removed from everything else. Where the old branding had that 3D effect on every element,
Mm.
except the worms.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just thinking about that, and it's a slightly different animation style. Animation's the wrong word. Cartoon style. Um,
illustration style, yeah.
illustration. That's the word I'm looking for. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't feel as connected.
But
Mm.
saying that, maybe in their market segment, like this is in German, so we, I guess this is why it's good when you're doing this sort of exercise. If you're a company looking to do this sort of exercise to hire from a local market, in that German companies and agencies would know what they're competing with. It's not like we couldn't do the same thing in that you know well, get someone to send German lollies over or try and find packaging. But maybe in the German market, this works better, or this has a certain look, or the local market or the local consumer thinks about this in a different way because um, let's not kid ourselves. We don't think like Germans, and
Mm.
so maybe that's what it is. Jumping from this logo refresh to a bit more of a jarring logo refresh, in the shape of Zip. I am very familiar with Zip. Are you familiar with Zip, Kelsey?
Familiar enough. I can't say that I've ever actually used it myself, but I've seen it around quite a bit.
Have you used any of these sort of competing Zip Pay, Afterpay sort
Nah,
of
I feel
services?
like that's just a trap, and I don't really want to get stuck in that. I'm very much like I'll spend the money I've got, and I don't want to be like elongating the pain of paying stuff off.
Yeah, yeah. Right, straight off the bat, before we jump into this, I should make that comment that this isn't commentary on what we think about the industry that these guys compete in and operate in. This is more looking at the graphic side of things. I think Kelsey, I agree with you in your sentiment, but um, Zip, though, they seem to have a pretty big market share. They were established in 2013. These sort of services are getting really big now, but they've been around for a long time. It's an Aussie company. They have a pretty big market share over here. Um, what do you think of this new logo?
Do you want to chuck it up on the screen? I don't think
Oh,
it's
it's
showing on the
not.
screen at the moment.
Oh, good spot. What's going on there? Let me switch it over.
This.
You have seen it yourself, did you say?
Yes. What's just happened there? Yeah, no, it's interesting. I can't say I am a huge fan of it, and I'm not really sure what caused the change or why they sort of went, let's switch this up, because I actually quite like their old logo.
There we go. It should be on screen now.
Yeah. I just, yeah. There's a lot I just don't understand.
It's quite a departure as well
Yeah.
from like that previous look and feel, and it's not like the old. I can't really see a Z there.
In the old one or the new one?
In the old one,
Oh,
in that
interesting.
icon.
Yeah.
I mean, if I saw it in isolation, I wouldn't sort of jump to that conclusion. But I don't know. They had a unique look and feel to them. That logo is, you know, pretty unique if you ask me. And then they've moved to something that, again, this is sort of similar to what Shandon did last week on last week's episode, where they simplified it, simplified their logo. But here, I think they've introduced this logo as a window sort of treatment, with well, the eye. I don't see an eye there either. Do you?
No, I really struggle. Like, I know it's called zip, but I struggle to actually read it as zip. I'm always like reading it as like a zop or something, or just zip, because there's just this
Yeah.
block in the middle of it, and I just don't understand why.
This is, if you're watching the stream, you'll see an animation. We'll link to this article as well, so you can read about it in more depth. But this animation does make it more compelling, that using it to showcase the one different wording, so in different languages. Sorry, so you can say zip, and then in the middle can say pay in whatever language. And I guess if they expand to different services, that's an opportunity there as well to maintain that sort of branding. um, and then you can also, I guess, their partners like Nike can have the ZipPay logo with the Nike logo within it. I haven't seen this sort of application before, so I don't know how it'll be applied in the real world, because I haven't seen that application. Um,
It's
I
definitely unique.
Yeah, I mean, it is simple yet unique. What do you think about these color names? Fearlessness, business, business light. Um, I love that it goes dark, medium, fearlessness, light, lighter,
There's just a
lightest.
peach and tan thrown in there as well.
Yeah, peach tan, business, business
And then
light, business
confidence.
lighter. Oh, confidence.
Yeah, confidence and control.
And control.
It's pretty much
Wow.
white, but just with that tiny little variation at the end of the hex code.
Yeah. There's a very slight variation there.
I wonder
And
why they
then
went with
they've
purple.
maybe to look different in the market potentially.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like there's a Zip Money credit card, and oh, here we go. This is the I guess example of that application that I mentioned, where they can have Zip Pay and Zip Money as different products.
I don't know. It's probably just me, but that application's just irking me.
It's not the most legible.
Yeah, I just feel like you end
say
up
that.
losing your brand a little bit. I mean, obviously, like the brand's still there because it's the Z, purple, and P. But I don't know. Surely, if you're not familiar with Zip as the word, and then you've got this other brand that's taking center stage, is that not then just putting the branding to the other brand, and Zip falls behind a bit there? I've explained that really poorly, but
No, I get what you mean. You're letting, well, but this is the thing though. So for them, they're potentially not looking to have Zip Pay stand out as much, because if you're a Zip Pay customer, you look for the logo, and all you're looking for is, oh, does Nike offer Zip Pay? But if you're new to the brand, you're not really looking for Zip Pay. Like, you're looking for the convenience of being able to pay it off in 4 easy payments. So Nike, for example, can use their logo with Zip, and it doesn't need to be read as Zip, because all Nike needs to say is pay it off in 4 easy payments. Because it doesn't matter to you whether it's Zip Pay or Afterpay or who the provider is. That's the only argument I could hear there.
Surely it would matter
Um,
though, because different providers would have different,
terms.
conditions and all that sort of
They're
stuff, and
basically
you'd
all the
trust
same.
one over the other.
They're basically all the same. Once you have an account,
Yeah.
like I think I've got an Afterpay account.
Hmm.
Once you've got an account with one of them, it's convenient, but like they're all the same. There are so many coming into the market because from what I can tell, it's a very easy market to get into, and it's extremely profitable, which is why we won't get into the business practices.
That's a whole different
Um,
conversation.
exactly, that is a whole different conversation. What are your thoughts of the font, the serif they've used, made popular by Mailchimp? To me, it's just Cooper as a font has been around for a long time, Cooper Light, but I think it's an interesting juxtaposition, with their very strong sans serif that they use.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I do like Cooper as a font. I, I don't know how it works connecting the branding though. I feel like it gets a bit lost, like it's almost too different from each other to sort of say, hey, that looks like Zip kind of thing.
Because the Zip logo isn't particularly friendly either, where Coopers are very, very friendly. And like if I quickly jump into MailChimp, for those who are not familiar, um, MailChimp's got the chimp and they've got this playful sort of tone to their
Mm.
colors and what they do and their language even, sort of saying
Yeah.
like, we'll help you. Um, so, to your point, Kelsey, I think, yeah, there's a bit of a disconnect there. Um,
Yeah. I mean, the
maybe
MailChimp font in the actual logo is soft and
is
round, even though it's sans serif. And so that connects way better with the serif font that they've used. Whereas I feel like the Zip one is so harsh and it's on that italicized, slanted.
reverse italics.
And it's just so different to that supporting font. It feels too disconnected for me, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, they're trying to have a bit of fun with their branding, I think, or
Yeah.
like with the overall marketing.
I feel
Um,
like they could have had more fun with their old logo though, or even if they just refreshed the old logo a bit. Like I'm not sure what prompted the change. What like at what point did they sit down and say we need to make a difference here? What was that thing that caused that conversation to happen?
I wonder if they had a huge infusion of funding, and that sort of pushed them to go into this sort of, let's change everything. We can really accelerate growth. So it's almost changing everything up so that when they reach people again moving forward, they're scaling at a much higher pace. So they want to shed the previous image that they had and really push this new image, because they've been around for 8 years, so they've had a long time to really refine their service offering. So they've had that time to, um, I guess, work out how they should position themselves. That's the only thing I could think of. They've just changed it because they want previous customers to almost not realize this is that same Zip, so that they can hit them in a different way and reach them in a different way.
Mm.
Um, let's jump from this refresh to one that's really, I mean, it's familiar I mean, I've been using Menulog and Uber Eats and all those services a whole lot. So it's really familiar for me, but this is the last logo refresh we're going to be talking about on this episode. And that's GrubHub. There's a mention of Seamless. I'm just going to leave it. I've never heard of Seamless. So I don't know what Seamless is, but GrubHub um, has released their new logo. So GrubHub's been around since '04. They're owned by Just Eat, which is a huge company, as it turns out, who also own Menulog. And GrubHub's new logo is essentially Menulog's logo with the wording changed.
Yeah, it's identical. Is it the kind of circumstance of like Burger King and Hungry Jack's?
Well, I mean, GrubHub is owned by Just Eat, so it's not quite the same because you're sort of talking about the product in different markets, where I don't think this is really the case. I don't think that Grubhub's in Australia,
No. So
but
is that like the American version of Menulog for us?
maybe but just Eat only bought Grubhub in June, on the 9th of June 2020. So, they've existed in isolation. Maybe they are sort of becoming, but then again, Seamless is also a company that has been purchased. Oh no, okay. So Seamless merged with GrubHub. I guess this is just the great consolidation of all these different, like Menulog essentially, or Just Eat purchasing Menulog, purchasing
Mm.
GrubHub, purchasing Seamless, so on and so forth, and just consolidating all these companies. Because from a business case point of view, I think you really need that scale to make this profitable.
I have to say, I'm kind of loving thinking about Grubhub if it's the identical business essentially to Menulog in a different market, and Hungry Jack's and Burger King, for example. I'm loving that both of those American or outside of Australia based companies have taken on the branding of Australian companies, because I don't know if you saw, but recently in the US, Burger King got a new logo, which is very similar to Hungry Jack's here in Australia. And it's the same thing here where we
Right.
had the Menulog branding, which they've taken over to all these different places now. And I kind
Is
of wonder, is it
Menulog
Australian
Australian?
companies who would have done the branding for this? Are they getting international recognition essentially for it? Like, that's pretty exciting, I think, for what I would say Australia being quite a small market, getting that branding out there.
Yeah, I'm just reading into it. So, right, okay, so Menulog is an Australian company. In 2015, Menulog and Eat Now merged, and then in February 2015, Menulog and Eat Now merged, and then in May of 2015, so like 3 months later, Just Eat bought Menulog,
Mm-hmm.
bought the whole company. Yes,
Okay.
I wonder, maybe could it be that, and this happens with startups where they um, go into a small market as a test market, and then they see what works before they go into larger markets. Could it be that Australia is sort of the testing ground for branding, you've
Yeah.
sort of said? I mean, not necessarily. That's not necessarily what you said. You were saying that the brand gets applied in Australia, and then
Yeah.
the
Well,
American brand takes it over.
I mean, I wonder if Menulog, the branding that we saw, which I think came about maybe like last year or started this year, it was pretty recent. I wonder if that was the first instance of that branding. But obviously, looking at all these different ones that you had up there, they're in lots of different markets. So I wonder if those markets had the same branding released at the same time, whether Australia was the first to see that branding. I don't know. And I don't know who did the branding for it either, whether it was an Australian company or not,
Yeah, I do wonder. Let me see if I can. No, I can't. It's not really talking about who did it.
or whether it was
Um,
internally done, because that's another option.
yeah, it's funny. I think at the moment, because we can't travel, it doesn't matter too much. But as soon as we can travel, I think if you're a Menulog customer over here, you go to the US, you see a familiar logo. I can see the benefits there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anywhere in the world, it looks like they are present. Actually, here we go. Just Eat takeaway expansion. It looks like they're definitely in Europe. They seem to be, they're in Belgium, they're in the Netherlands, they're in Germany. So maybe they're in England. So yeah, they're quite big. So I think this is an interesting case study, because it's like a family of logos, but the Just Eat logo, the type has its own look and feel. Menulog has its own look and feel. Skip the Dishes and now Grubhub have their own look and feel as well, yet they keep the similar icon. This is sort of another way, a different approach, but similar to what Zip is trying to do with Zip Pay, Zip Money, so on and so forth, that we just talked about. So um, interesting one nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say. They haven't even changed the colors. They've just kept it all the same, gone with the orange.
Mm.
It's not a overly crowded market, at least in Australia. So, and orange stands out enough. But that's probably enough time spent talking about food. I'm getting hungry.
No, it's getting towards lunch.
It is. um, Jumping over to the next topic, which is Facebook introducing their widely viewed content report. This is their inaugural report that was released on the 18th, so about 10 days ago. Um, and there's some interesting takeaways out of this, which I don't necessarily believe. Noting that they've done this research in the US, and each geographical region will have a different um, I guess different habits, and Facebook, I would think, would cater how they work and cater the algorithm slightly differently within each region. Um, but looking at it, they their sort of key takeaways are suggesting that the content that's seen by the most people isn't necessarily the content that also gets the most engagement. Which I just, basically saying that likes, shares, and comments doesn't equate to more reach, which I, I just, I, whatever they say, I just don't believe. I don't think
I mean,
that
how
they're being truthful.
it's probably just coming from somebody who really doesn't understand the real intricacies of algorithms. But if it's not coming from likes and comments and things, how do they decide which content is shared widely?
Exactly. I don't know about you, but I'm recommended the most random things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if it isn't by likes, shares, and comments, I don't know what it would be by. The next one I would, 100% disagree with. They're saying that the majority, 57% of posts that people see are from family and friends. Um, I think I would see 5% of content from family and friends. Everything else is, like I said, those random videos that I would never watch, and just random content from groups. And is
Yeah.
I just don't agree with it.
I have to say, I think when it comes to scrolling through Facebook, I definitely see the majority is like other pages content. It's not family and friends, but it's family and friends who have commented or liked things, I guess. But I never see content posted directly from family or friends. And I wonder if that's more of a case of my network, I guess, doesn't really go on Facebook anymore and they don't share things to Facebook. Because I can't think of any of my friends who are like active or posting photos or making statuses and things, because they'd go to like Instagram or probably just message us directly about whatever's coming up.
It's definitely a different time now, isn't it? We don't really post onto our news feed, onto our
No more
timeline, or
days
whatever you
of I
call
just
it.
made a sandwich.
Exactly. I do know a few people who do it, but every time I see that, I just go, "What are you
Yeah,
doing?" No one really cares.
no.
Saying that though, if you do want to post into Facebook, shameless plug, we'll have the link below. Join the Facebook group where we're always asking questions, trying to help small business owners and anyone looking, with startups or businesses looking to scale, looking to grow. Um, so if you do have that itch, of posting into Facebook, come join the group. Link will be in the description below. Um, so yeah, Facebook sort of finishes this off saying that they'll continue to release these reports, and transparency is part of everything that we do, and it's their latest effort in sort of being more transparent, which I don't really believe. But if you want to read more into it, we'll include a link down below so you can actually look at the report. You can see the full report, and there's a companion guide with more information as well. So um, we'll leave that um, there for now. The next one is TikTok steaming, teaming up with Shopify to offer in-app purchases. Have you done much reading into this?
Not a huge amount. I've sort of read through this article. I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Shopify's partnering with TikTok. Um, it's, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting headline, given TikTok and how it sort of came about being just like purely content, and it was pure videos, and it was sort of Vine-esque at the start, still sometimes like that. But now they're really taking an active step into that e-commerce space and getting more into that influencer kind of thing, which traditionally has been an Instagram thing, I suppose. And now influencers are very much like on TikTok, and they're making it easier for those influencers to monetize their content, share products and things, and then allow people to purchase through Shopify through TikTok. So it's
I think it's an interesting partnership because Shopify now can scale. You know, there's mention in the article that Kylie Jenner will be one of the first entrepreneurs to test it out, the integration, because Kylie Cosmetics is built on social media. Now, it doesn't say whether it's Kylie Cosmetics is built on Shopify. But like you said, you know, they're starting. I think this is a move to look at monetizing TikTok as a platform, to make more and more money, of course, because they're a business. They're here to make money. But I think it opens up opportunities for anyone who's on TikTok, to start monetizing their content and monetizing their feed. Like if you've got an e-commerce brand, um, I'd imagine that you'd be able to, with this integration, sort of send people directly onto your site, to make a purchase. We've seen Instagram add this functionality, having not offered it initially, so it's not very surprising. It's just something for you to be aware of, if you are on TikTok or if you've thought about hopping on TikTok. Definitely a different demographic there, and I think from geography to geography, the people on TikTok, or the main viewers and users, sort of in work, I guess, working and sort of entertaining themselves on TikTok change. Um, but opportunities there for anyone looking at, I guess, monetizing TikTok further. I've heard of people with, you know, 500,000 TikTok followers struggling to monetize, but this is obviously TikTok trying to change that moving forward.
I mean, it makes sense why they'd struggle to monetize, because I think TikTok's a weird one in that you can have one video that just goes absolutely viral and that's it, versus sort of, I guess, Instagram, where you're really building up an audience much more steadily. And it's more consistent and, I guess, foundational growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, versus TikTok, which definitely seems to be a bit more fleeting, for the lack of a better word. Um, Jumping from one platform to another, Snapchat and their scan feature, which is like an augmented reality feature. Let me share this video. Now this is from a review from The Verge. Um, So I don't know if you heard any of that, but um, basically it was just showing, um, the video was showing Snapchat scan AR features in use. And what it lets you do is sort of scan like a Coke can, for example, and it'll surface the nutritional info for that object. And I'm thinking longer term, similar to what we were talking about with TikTok, this will open up more e-commerce opportunities. So, like, if you've got a product, you could get people could scan it and then purchase it, or if your friend is wearing a cool pair of shoes, they can just, or you can just scan it and then um, get taken to a store. And obviously, this tool's going to get better and better over time. But the best perhaps the best use I can see of this is in public, when you don't necessarily know the person, sort of rocking like rocking a cool watch or driving a cool car. Um, this tool can really make Snapchat more relevant because it'll let you like essentially use it as, I mean, Google's got a similar product. I think it's a really interesting example of Snapchat as a social media company sort of branching out to be much more.
Mm. I, I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical. I feel like it's not going to help Snapchat too much. I feel like they're just a bit of a dying platform, to be honest.
I
Um,
think Snapchat's actually, as a company, it would surprise you. I also think that they're not doing that great. But from what I could see, last like their income, like their revenues, in the billions of dollars still. They have $5 billion, sorry, in total assets. So um I know they're now a publicly traded company and so on and so forth. So um I think I do see what you mean in that I'm not sure how much it'll help, but there are some compelling use cases. Like, let me share what I'm looking at. Like this one here, you can scan like a denim jacket and it'll surface, where you can buy it from.
mm,
And wouldn't be surprised if Snapchat then gets a kickback.
yeah, I mean, if you're walking around, like you sort of said before, and you see somebody rocking a t shirt that you think's cool, but you don't know them, you can't approach them. Is it not equally as weird to just take a photo of this person and try to find the shirt that way?
Definitely. Okay. The real ultimate use case here is for something like I think they're called snap lenses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate goal, where you're just wearing a pair of glasses that happen to have a camera
Did
inbuilt.
Google try that?
Google tried it. Snap's trying it. I think augmented reality is where it's at though. Like Mercedes Benz has augmented reality in their cars now. So when you look at the navigation, instead of just giving you directions, it shows you arrows, like so you know which lane to be on. That it overlays the graphics on a real world like image, so you can see literally as you're walking along. I think Google does something similar as well. So um, that this is I guess this is more for a future that we're not really in at the moment.
Yeah. I feel
Um
like it's just one of those things like the technology is really cool, but finding the real world application that people will readily adopt is just not quite there. Because I mean, that's probably just from my personal perspective, because I can't imagine myself scanning stuff on a phone. Like, I don't think I'm that desperate to find out where a denim jacket's from. It's sort of like if I'm at a shop and I see a denim jacket, cool, I'll buy it. I'm not desperate enough to go searching for it, I guess. But that's probably just a personal preference rather than a representation of most people.
exactly. And for I think any company, they're trying to increase the chances of you purchasing something. And they're trying to build out this emotion within you that you really need something and you really want something. So, with that in mind, it's definitely more of a future thing. But I don't see why Snapchat still has a lot of users, so they have a lot of information about like what is being photographed. So it's probably one of the most used image sort of or cameras, I guess, image taking devices, because Snapchat would still be up there with any of the other social platforms. And while the others aren't experimenting with this sort of thing, this is where Snapchat can start doing these sort of experiments early, and really like allowing you, if you're like, we were talking about TikTok before, but there are brands that are built on Snapchat. And so there's an opportunity for those brands, if you're not on Snapchat, maybe an opportunity for you to get into Snapchat, knowing, especially again with e-commerce, knowing that in the future, um, people would just be able to find your products by scanning. Um, because, if enough people start using that and your products aren't cataloged on Snap or on Snapchat, um, you're sort of missing out. Like you're losing out there, at least a little bit.
Yeah, falling behind a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Um, Hopping onto another social network and platform, LinkedIn, they've released a report. Again, we'll have the links um, to all these things that we're talking about in the description. Um, and again, there's some interesting sort of takeaways from their report. The most interesting is that LinkedIn page followers who are exposed to both organic and paid ads, or organic and paid content, are 61% more likely to convert compared to those only exposed to paid content. Now, I can see how that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do,
I mean, I
do,
guess
do
that just
you?
follows the same sort of structure that you should have in all social media, in that you can't just rely on pushing ads on people, because people, they can see it's promoted or sponsored or whatever it is. They're not going to trust it. But if you have that organic content and that supports what they're seeing in the paid ads, it's, I think, pretty logical in any platform that that's going to be positive for you.
61% though, and I actually, the only thing here is I wonder if these findings are sort of swayed by the fact that if someone finds you organically, that means they've already got an interest in your brand. You would think, like, I'm not going to like the page or like the content or follow the content of something that I'm not interested in. So I wonder if that's one thing that, LinkedIn conveniently failed to mention. It's hard to account for, um, but yeah. What do you think? Like,
I don't know. I just feel like it's such a, I don't know. It's interesting to see the percentage outcome. I just feel like it's such a nothing stat, though. I just feel like it's such a logical conclusion. I don't know. I guess
well,
I think they're just trying to get more people, more advertisers to go on there and say, hey, awesome, like let's do the organic, but let's also give LinkedIn money to do the ads. It's, I don't know.
saying that, I guess you do work in the industry, so maybe it makes a lot more sense to you. Whereas a small business owner who's sort of sitting there going, I mean, in LinkedIn's case, going, I don't get the point of LinkedIn. I don't know why I should be posting on there. Um, don't get me wrong, this is definitely helping LinkedIn as much as it's helping us, um, with content, and sort of interesting things. And saying that, it is something that I would use if I had to talk to a client who was a bit harder to sway. It's definitely something I would reference at the very least, because it is published by LinkedIn, and not even to push people onto LinkedIn. It's to bolster up any sort of pitch or argument for any sort of um, strategy that includes paid and organic. So maybe that's just that, maybe they're doing us a bit of a service.
Yeah, maybe.
The jumping onto our very last item for this episode, before we talk about something a little bit fun, so maybe second last item. Pinterest has launched a hair pattern search option, that boosts inclusion and utility. So getting a bit more utility, focused on their app, because historically it's just, for me at least, been somewhere to just save stuff to, and that's where the utility is stopped. I think the diversity angle is interesting. We actually saw, I think it was Samsung who released updates to their software that, adjusted that to their camera software that, worked better with people with darker skin. It's definitely something I've noticed in the past. Cameras just struggle to light me and expose my skin properly. And this is sort of another step, I guess, in that sort of inclusivity and diversity, angle.
Mhm.
Um, saying that, I don't know that there's much more use and utility to it than, like, it's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Pinterest is one of those companies who just really knows their audience and they have a very captured niche audience. So when it comes to something like hair texture, I mean, for me, I sort of see Pinterest as like they've probably got a really large audience. This is all just assumptions because I haven't actually looked into this. I imagine they have quite a large audience that's into sort of fashion, or there's like the curly hair movement. As I mean, I'm in that, but that whole group of people that would really benefit from trying to find products, for example, shampoos and conditioners that would suit really curly hair, let's say. And I think this is like one use case of it, but I'm sure that that kind of technology would be really great for those niche markets that have variations within the niche themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and potentially, I guess, picking up on those subtle intricacies that you can't really explain, because you being in the curly hair industry, us having like a client in the industry, I'm probably more across it than the average person. Um, I know that there's different levels of curly hair, so you can't just necessarily always just search for curly hair products, because sometimes it is sort of how curly the hair looks. This is a promo video. It goes to 21 seconds. I want to watch it and see if it sheds any more light. Let's give it a watch. Interesting. It's already more detailed than I thought it would be for an app just being launched.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really cool. And yeah, like I said, I think they just really know their audience because I mean, I would probably fit right into the audience. I'm not an active user of Pinterest, but I think the times I have been on there, I'll go searching for a type of hairstyle, for example, or an outfit. That's like the two kind of things I'll search for if I'm just wanting inspiration. So if I'm then able to search for a hairstyle for my kind of curls, or I want to recommend a hairstyle for a friend that has super curly hair or straight hair or something, it makes it much easier to break that up. Because I mean, I think even for me in the past, I found hairstyles and I just go, well, I'm not going to be able to do that though. It doesn't suit my hair type. And
Yeah.
it's such a niche use case, but there's also so many people that would benefit from it.
Well, and being into, like, I use it to store my photography inspiration and ideas. Even there, talking to a model, sort of saying, okay, what kind of hair do you have? And then being able to filter down my search results accordingly. Because like you've said, certain outfits don't work, certain hairdos don't work, certain sort of general vibes don't work if you need sort of someone with curly hair, but the model has straight hair, for example. And I don't see why they wouldn't sort of expand it moving forward into identifying hair color and body type, which I get that it might be a bit controversial, going down that avenue, but you know talking about Snapchat scan tool, sort of having layers of information that you can pick up off images, especially on a platform where you're saving images. Let's be honest, that's all you're doing with Pinterest. You're just saving images. It could be for all sorts of different outcomes, like inspiration for XYZ, or it could be handy tips or recipes. But at the end of the day, you're just saving images. So a tool like that, with such basic and, I guess, very, like, there's, if you wanted to save images, there's heaps of ways to do it. It's not nothing new, so they need to innovate in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise they become irrelevant. um I think they've found a very interesting way of doing it, and if any of these screenshots are accurate, it seems like they've got it working already.
Nice. I really like it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then again, like, even myself, I have slightly curly hair, um and I find, like, if I'm looking for suit inspiration to try and work out, okay, what color suit do I want? My hair affects it, my skin color affects it, and I just can't find the right, like, I can't look at inspiration to find the right color, because you know the different colored suit looks different on different colored complexion and different styles of hair. So yeah, they could. I think they're onto something. I wasn't sure. I found it more interesting from a tech perspective when I first heard about it, but moving forward, I think, yeah, I'm gonna play around with it.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. It's cool.
Yeah. And then the last one, this is a bit of a fun one. Let me do the screen share. A bit of a fun one. The corporate states of America. So this is from a graphic designer called Keith Fleck. Um, Basically, he describes it as a project, that was an exercise in finding the most recognizable brands headquartered in each state in the US, and then changing the state's name or changing the logo to reflect the company logo with, or the company that is the biggest company or most recognizable company headquartered in each state. And I just wanted to bring this up as just a little fun thing to sort of scroll through and finish off this episode. You've heard of U-Haul?
Yeah, I thought it was U-Haul, but I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
confident on this though.
I mean, Walmart, that's
Yeah.
from Arkansas. Um, Interesting. Facebook in California. Coors, which is a beer brand. I didn't realize Xerox was from the US, but that's a bit easy. DuPont. Um, I think it's a fun application.
Yeah, that's really funky.
This one's easy. Hawaiian Airlines. All they had to do was get rid of the um, AAN, oh no, AN and airlines, and got the logo for Hawaii. McDonald's, Illinois. Sprint phone company. Yeah, I just thought this was a fun little exercise for even aspiring designers to do. Sort of look at how you can mimic, and I mean, some of these companies have simple logos, but some of them are not so simple. So doing this sort of exercise, even as sort of a self-motivated thing to see how good you can become at replicating from scratch the logo of a popular entity. A lot of people do it already to see how they can modernize and how they can refresh and rebrand, or help refresh the logos for a company. So yeah, I just thought this was a fun little thing. I'm contemplating whether we could. I might do something this weekend for Australian states, maybe. Not necessarily copying this sort of concept one to one, but yeah, wanted to finish off this episode with that fun little note.
I'd love to see the Australian one, so I'm going to hold you to that and check up on you on that.
Well, speaking of which, next episode's probably going to be in about 2 to 3 weeks. We've had 2 episodes of this new season so far, going on a bit of a hiatus. But yeah, just wanted to sort of drop that note. So I think I've got like 2 to 3 weeks before Kelsey, you'll sort of bring me, hold me to.
Yeah.
I didn't make a promise. I just dropped a
True.
note that I might do this and look into this.
All right. Well, I'll still follow up and see if you've done it.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for listening to this episode, everyone. We'll, as always, have all the links down in the description. If you want to join the Facebook group, link down there as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's about it. I think we're ready to roll the intro. What do you think, Kelsey?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll catch you guys in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Roll the outro, not the intro.
That's the one.
I don't know what I was thinking. Bye, everyone.
Catch ya.